Welcome back to my channel. Thanks for joining me. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how I make my Wendy by Design apron from start to finish. It's a pretty long video, so grab you a cup of tea, cup of coffee, whatever your preference. This is the aprons we'll be making. This is the pattern piece here. Just different fabrics, play around, have some fun. So let's get right into it. We're going to cut out all of our pattern pieces here. Here is the skirt. It says velvet encrusted taffeta. Here is the bodice piece, cutting out here. And it has a princess cup. I love this feature of this apron. Don't forget to cut out your lining pieces. Every piece should have a lining piece. So every piece of your regular fabric should have a lining piece of your choice. All right, now let's get all our pattern pieces together. Each piece should have a lining piece, the bodice piece, the princess cups up, found one without one. Let's double back and cut one out. Here I just cut my fabric real simple. I take the fabric, how it comes off the bolt, I fold it in half, and I draw 3-inch spaced lines. And I draw 8 of those. That's 2 per strap. 2 for the left strap, 2 for the right strap, 2 for the right tie, and 2 for the left tie of the neck. I also cut out 2 4-inch wide strips for the waistband, which will be embroidered later. You see I'm putting fusible interfacing on the waistband pieces, so it'll be sturdy enough for embroidery. Plus, the waistband needs to be nice and stable since it's 4 inches wide. Right here, you'll see I'm folding the fabric in half to press a crease into the center fold. You're gonna need the center fold of each piece that we put together. So I'm just hand pressing a center fold for eye reference when we get ready to assemble the waistband. Now that you have your pieces prepped and cut, now you need to serge the sides of the waistband pieces. This is going to give you a good sturdy waistband assembly. Do both pieces. Then you want to go ahead and assemble your ties. You take 2 ties, right sides together, and sew them the length of the fabric. You only want to leave one side open. I round out one end. It's just rounded out like this. It's very, very long. You need this hole here to put your hole turner in, your tube turner, because there's no way to turn this inside out any other way. So if you haven't seen my video on how to use this thing, I have it on my YouTube channel. I'm gonna go ahead and use it right now so I can show you guys the process. It's my granddaughter keeping me company. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys. This is the whole strip. This is the whole tie. It's pretty long. It's 60 inches long. 55. Take away seam allowance. I put the tube in the hole of the tie and let it drop all the way to the bottom. Push it all the way to the bottom. And like I said, if you haven't seen my detailed video on how I do this, I have another video on just how to use this tool. Then you take the tool, you take the stick, and you push it in the hole, giving some leeway to the rest of the fabric, and then you pull it down over the tube, pushing the stick inwards. But mainly pulling the fabric backwards. And this is fairly long. It usually doesn't take this long. Once I see the fabric at the tip of the stick and I can see my turner there, I want to slowly pull the stick while holding the fabric. And now I have a 60-inch strip that I turned in less than a minute. Then I take the stick and I try to press out my corner. And then, of course, the next step would be to press. This is the creative freedom part that really gets me. I found this beautiful trim and I wanted to add it to the apron, but I wasn't sure whether or not. It's my YouTube channel. Say hi.
Hi, I am her granddaughter.
So, whether or not I wanted to put these red accents on the bodice, and because it's iron on, I want to do it before. I sew it together. So I decided to go ahead with it, and I ironed them on in the place that I thought that they would look great once I assemble this whole apron. I think it's going to be a nice accent. I changed my mind 2 or 3 times in the creative process of this. So this is just me moving things around, trying to decide whether I wanted to cut in more pieces. But eventually I just stuck with it, and we're going to use these pieces. These are iron-on pieces, so I did have to press them a few times on the top part, and then I'm going to flip it over and press it again on the bottom part. Again, these are just iron-on applique. What apron wouldn't be special without an embroidery on it? And these are the 2 princess cups pieces for the bodice. You need to sew the lining to the fabric and leave the bottom open. Trim away the excess. Do both the same way because you're going to turn them inside out and press them later. Now let's press the ties for the waistband and from around the neck. We want to press those very well. We also want to press in the serge edge as a hem for our waistband pieces. That's the front and this is the back. You want to take the lining and the fabric piece face sides together and you want to sew them up the edges, leaving the top and the bottom open in order to install the tie later. And we're going to flip this inside out because it's inside out. This is where I attempt to insert the ties without using a stick because I was being lazy. But I finally caved and just used a stick to start this off. I pushed the stick through the bottom of the tie and pushed it through that way because you want to sew this in there. It normally doesn't take me this long to put a tie in, but for some reason, this particular apron gave me the flux. Now, if you want short ties around the neck, then you pull only so much off, cut it off. But these are 60-inch long ties. They're the width of a fabric that came off a bolt. So, but I like mine really long, so I was just demonstrating how you can keep them short. So I'm going to pull them all the way, leaving about an inch out. And then we're going to sew this closed. Do it a couple times because it's going to take the stress of the apron. Don't forget to trim away any excess fabric you have around the edges. This makes better for turning when we flip it inside out. After trimming away the excess, this is what your piece should look like. Now let's do this one more time. Let's make another one. Now you should have your 2 tie pieces for around the waistband that tie in the back. That's what those 2 are for. And then you should also have your 2 bodice pieces that are still inside out from assembly, with your 2 ties already assembled inside. You should also have your 2 princess cut pieces that go onto your bodice pieces. We're going to turn these right side out, and then we're going to assemble them together as a whole bodice piece. Alright, let's go ahead and get these turned right side out. This is a bodice piece. We're going to pull the strap. It's going to come right through the hole. And voila, we have lined bodice piece. Go ahead and get those corners for the bodice piece. Make the corners real nice and sharp, so when we put our princess cups in, it'll be really nice and full. I'm checking the stitching here to make sure that's gonna take the weight of the apron. And now let's turn this one. And do the same inspection. Now I see that my applique is coming off, so I'm gonna have to repress this again. I'm not liking these applique. Get the corners really well. Now you want to get your bodice princess cut pieces, and you want to turn those inside out, or right side out. I just was turning it and the lining pulled, so make sure that you get enough seam allowance depending on the fabric that you're using. And my seam allowance was just, I cut a little too close. So now we're double checking the quality. All right. I'm gonna check the side, which side it goes on. And let's assemble these. Let's press them out and assemble them. Here you see me repressing it. I press the bodice cups. Okay, this is how the pieces go together. This is the center front. We're gonna sew these 2 together. Right up along here. These are our princess pieces. Remember, we sewed them there, so they're open at the bottom. We're gonna sew this to this side and sew this one to this side. And we're gonna have a beautiful princess bodice. Now let's get to sewing this thing together. I'm gonna go ahead and put my first princess cup in here. If you noticed, I haven't used very many pins. I've put this apron together a million times, different variations, but just if you just do a little at a time. I'm doing the princess cup. Just do a few stitches at a time and hold the material together. If you take your time, you get beautiful results. Repeat, do the opposite side of the princess cup. Just taking your time, going slowly. And now you see we have a beautiful princess cup bodice for our apron. Now we need to sew both of these together to make one piece. We have the left side and the right side. So let's put them face together and stitch them straight up the front. We're not going to do anything fancy with the front bodice piece this time. It's just going to be a straight up and down stitch. Now let's get all the skirt pieces together so we can assemble them, putting the lining piece to the regular fabric piece. So you're going to put them face right sides together, line them up so we can sew the circumference of the skirt, because we're going to turn it inside out, and that is going to be our hem. So there's no hemming this. We're going to leave the inside open. Now you just see me assembling the two lining piece with the fabric main piece all the way around the circumference of the skirt, leaving this waistband open. And then I took some pinking shears and I cut off the excess fabric around the edge. Then I turned it right side out. Then I took it to the ironing board and I pressed the edges. I did this for all three pieces, including the little piece, which is the top tier. Turn it right side out, and then the bottom tier, which was the biggest tier. Trim off the excess. And then let's take it to the ironing board so we can press this piece as well. Let's press this whole big piece out, but notice I left this center front. This is the center front fold from the original fold from when I cut the pattern piece. Each skirt layer should have a fold in it, like this. This is for future reference for assembly. Here I'm showing you each piece that is a layer of the skirt has a center fold mark from its original pattern piece. These lines will help assist you when assembling the skirt once we put stay stitches around the waistband and serge the waistband. I'm going to show you in the future how it's going to help. Okay, here we need to baste our lining fabric to our main fashion fabric, because now this is one whole piece, and we're going to serge this center waistline piece of this tier as well. We're going to do all 3 pieces. Right now I'm just putting a really quick stay stitch in. Now we took our fabric over to the serger, and we're going to serge the piece of the fabric that we just stay stitched, because we need it to be sturdy during assembly, because there are 3 layers plus the waistband that need to be put together. So I find that using a serged hemline helps. Alright, here's the finished product. 3 layers, skirt layers. They are fully lined. They don't need any hemming, and the serged waistband portion of the tiers, they attach to the waistband actually. Still have my folded lines for dead center for assembly to help me out visually. Okay, now I'm gonna have to assemble the waistband to the skirt pieces. So let's set the skirt pieces aside. I'm gonna grab the waistbands. This is the back, the Jennifer one is the front. If we remember, we interfaced it. We also hemmed it already, Jennifer. So we have to lay this out. I like to lay it out so I can see where my center fold is. And as you can see, I'm finding my center fold, because the way that you assemble it is you assemble it where it is right side to right side, and then it flips up because we're assembling it upwards. So there's the bottom piece, the crease, put pin in it. My granddaughter wants to play cards with me. Second layer, same thing. Nice, clean, serged edges to work with. When you're working with a lot of layers, it's great to have serged edges around the edges of the pieces you're working with. All right, here I had to speed it up. This is a very slow process to get all 4 layers to line up straight, because you want to sew this straight. So the edges of the apron want to curl up because that's what it's supposed to do. But during assembly, you want to keep it as straight as possible. And here we go. I'm going to go ahead and assemble that. Just sew it on right where I pinned it. And you see the front is still raw. The front waistband is not attached yet. It's just the back waistband. And the back waistband is folded down, and now you can see it's folded up, and that is going to be encased. Now we're going to do the front waistband. You want to put them right sides together. So when we sew them together to the apron, you will flip it upwards. You'll see. I'm stitching off that last 4th layer. Well, that's 5 layers. And you see I flip it up, and there's Jennifer. Now we can attach the bodice. You want to attach it to the back first. I sew the bottom for stability with a serge. Now I'm adding it to the back. So now all I have to do is flip up the waistband and enclose that. Here you can see I made a mistake, and I had to seam rip my waistband out because I wasn't paying attention to the layers, and one of the layers had folded itself into the stack. So easy peasy, fix it and finish sewing together the waistband. I start from the center and work my way out so that it is even. Here I slowed the video down a little bit so you guys could actually see the construction of the inside of the waistband. As you can see, each layer has been serged, and it makes it pretty easy to put it together when it's a nice finished edge. I already sewed up one side of her apron, the waistband, very close to the edge. Now we're going to go ahead and line everything up and sew the other side all the way down. I wanted to slow the video down some. It's still at 2 times the speed of filming, so I could show you what it looks like, and anyone trying to follow along can actually follow along. Here I already sewed the waistband down one side from the center going out. Here I'm trying to line up the waistband to try to do it the wrong way, so I did it the right way. Flip the apron around, get to the center, and stitch out. Now here we're finishing up the waistband. We're going to take the apron, fold it in half because we need to true up the waistband. So here you see me lining everything up 50-50. And then we're just going to eyeball it and chop off part of the waistband because we're going to put our ties there. That's the second strap. That's it. Construction is complete. Let's pop off these threads and get this over to my dress form so I can eyeball it better. Pretty, 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 pretty. My dress form's a little too small for the size that I made this apron, but aprons are one size fits everyone. Here she is, complete in her glory. Jennifer, I hope you enjoy your apron. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Jennifer, the taffeta velvet apron. Thanks for watching.